The massive alien ships filled the space around New Terra Prime, like dark clouds before a storm. Admiral Kexthil stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colony world spin slowly below. His reptilian eyes glowed with satisfaction. After 6 months of war, the humans were finally beaten. "Report," Kexthil hissed to his second-in-command. "Sir, the human defense fleet is destroyed. Only 3 ships remain, and they are badly damaged. Their orbital platforms are running on. Emergency power. The planet cannot defend itself much longer." Kexthil nodded. The Zephyrian hegemony had sent 200 warships to crush this human world. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything the humans could build. Their crystalline hulls sparkled in the light of the system's star, beautiful and deadly. On the planet below, Colonel Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his face as he stared at the tactical display. The underground command bunker felt like a tomb. Red lights blinked everywhere, showing systems that were failing or already dead. "How long do we have?" he asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter looked up from her console. Her young face was pale with exhaustion. "The shields are down to 30%, sir. Maybe 2 hours before they fail completely." "And the civilians?" "Most are in the deep shelters, but we still have thousands in the outer districts. The transport ships can't get them all out in time." Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. He had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never faced anything like this. The Zephyrians were not just trying to conquer New Terra Prime. They wanted to wipe out every human in the galaxy. Captain Steve Walsh burst into the command center. His Marine uniform was torn and covered in dust. "Sir, we've lost contact with the northern defense line. The aliens are landing troops all along the coast. How many men do we have left?" "About 2,000 Marines, sir, plus maybe 5,000 civilian volunteers. They're brave, but they're not soldiers." Morrison nodded grimly. Against 200 alien warships and their ground forces, 2,000 Marines might as well be 200. But they would fight anyway. It was what humans did. The Zephyrian Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for 1,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and destroyed dozens of alien civilizations. Their technology was far ahead of anything humans had developed. Their weapons could punch through any human shield. Their ships were faster and stronger than human vessels. 6 months ago, the Zephyrians had sent a simple message to Earth: surrender or be destroyed. The human government had tried to negotiate, but the aliens were not interested in peace. They wanted the humans gone, completely and forever. The war had been hopeless from the start. Human fleets were destroyed in every battle. Colony worlds fell one by one. Now only New Terra Prime remained, and it would not last much longer. "Admiral." Kexthil opened a communication channel to the planet below. His image appeared on screens throughout the human command bunker. The alien looked like a giant lizard with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. "Humans of New Terra Prime, this is Admiral Kexthil of the Zephyrian hegemony. Your resistance is over. Your ships are destroyed. Your defenses are failing. I offer you one final chance to surrender. Lay down your weapons, and you will be granted a quick death." Colonel Morrison stepped forward to reply. He was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes, but his voice was steady and strong. "Admiral, this is Colonel Jake Morrison. We've heard your offer, and our answer is the same as always. Go to hell." The alien's eyes flashed with anger. "Then you have chosen to die slowly. My ships will turn your world into ash and dust. Your children will curse your name as they burn." "Maybe," Morrison said, "but we'll take as many of you with us as we can." The communication ended. In the command bunker, the humans prepared for the final battle. Lieutenant Carter worked frantically to boost power to the remaining shield generators. Captain Walsh organized the last-ditch defense of the civilian shelters. Everyone knew they were going to die, but no one suggested giving up Dot above the planet. Admiral Kexthul gave his final orders. All ships prepare for orbital bombardment. Target the major cities first, and the military installations. Leave nothing alive. The Zephyrian ships began to move into position. Their massive cannons started to charge with deadly energy. The alien admiral smiled, showing his sharp teeth. In a few hours, the last human world would be nothing but a dead rock floating in space. Long-range sensors swept the empty space around the system. There were no human ships within 100 light years. No reinforcements were coming. The humans of New Terra Prime were completely alone. As the first wave of energy blasts prepared to fire, the sensors showed nothing but empty darkness at the edge of the system. Victory was certain. The human race would be extinct before the day was over. The Zephyrian gunners took aim at the planet below. Children in the shelters held their parents' hands and tried not to cry. Soldiers checked their weapons one last time. Everyone waited for the end, but in the cold darkness of space, something was watching and waiting. Something the aliens could not see or detect. Something that would change everything in ways no one could imagine. The bombardment was about to begin. The USS Blackstar drifted silently in the shadow of a dead moon, invisible to every sensor in the galaxy. Captain Ryan Brooks stood perfectly still on the bridge, watching the tactical display that showed the Zephyrian fleet surrounding New Terra Prime. His ship was humanity's greatest secret, and perhaps its last hope. "Status report," Brooks said quietly. Lieutenant Lisa Taylor kept her eyes on the passive sensors. "Sir, the alien fleet is in bombardment formation. 200 ships, all Crystal-class heavy cruisers. They're charging their main guns. And our position? We're completely hidden, sir. Their sensors can't penetrate the stealth field. As far as they know, we don't exist." Brooks nodded. The Blackstar was officially listed as destroyed in a training accident 3 years ago. In reality, it had been built in the deepest military shipyards using technology that should have been impossible. The ship was humanity's first attempt at creating something that could fight the Zephyrians on equal terms. Engineer Dan Miller looked up from his console. "Captain, the quantum drive is ready for combat operations. But I have to warn you, we've never tested it under these conditions. We might get one shot at this, maybe two if we're lucky." "How long until the bombardment starts?" 10 minutes, sir. Maybe less." Brooks walked to the main view screen and stared out at the enemy fleet. Each of those ships could destroy a human city with a single shot. Together, they would turn New Terra Prime into a lifeless rock in a matter of hours. The Blackstar was small compared to the alien vessels, only 300 meters long. But it carried technology that the Zephyrians had never seen before. Hidden in the ruins of an ancient civilization, human scientists had found artifacts that defied all known laws of physics. It had taken 5 years to understand them well enough to build a working prototype. The ship's hull was covered in metamaterials that bent light and energy around it like water flowing around a stone. Radar, LiDAR, thermal sensors, quantum scanners, nothing could detect the Blackstar when it didn't want to be found. It was a ghost ship, existing in the spaces between reality. But the real secret was the quantum torpedoes. Unlike normal weapons, they could phase through shields and armor as if they weren't there. They would materialize inside enemy ships and detonate, tearing them apart from within. The Zephyrians had never faced anything like them. "Sir," Taylor said, "we're receiving a final transmission from the planet." Brooks listened to Colonel Morrison's last message. The man's voice was calm and steady, even though he knew he was about to die. "Make them pay," he said simply. The communication cut off as the planet's transmitters went dark. On the view screen, Brooks could see the first orbital defense platforms exploding like small suns. The aliens were beginning their attack. "Captain," Miller said, "if we're going to do this, we need to move now. The quantum drive needs time to cycle between shots." Brooks looked at his crew. There were only 47 people on the Blackstar. Volunteers who had known from the beginning that they probably wouldn't survive this mission. They were the best of the best, chosen from thousands of applicants. Each one had lost family or friends to the Zephyrian invasion. "All hands, this is the captain," Brooks announced over the ship's intercom. "We all know why we're here. Down. On that planet, millions of people are about to die. They're counting on us to do something that everyone says is impossible. Well, we've been doing impossible things for 3 years now. Let's show these aliens what happens when they mess with humans." The crew responded with quiet determination. They didn't cheer or shout. They simply went to work, preparing their ghost ship for battle. "Helm, take us in," Brooks ordered. Silent running, maximum stealth. The Blackstar began to move, gliding through space like a shark through dark water. Its engines made no sound and left no trace. The quantum drive bent space around the ship, allowing it to slip between the cracks in reality dot. As they approached the alien fleet, Brooks studied the tactical display. The Zephyrians were arranged in a perfect formation, confident that no human ship could threaten them. Their flagship was in the center, surrounded by layers of escort vessels. "Target the flagship first," Brooks said. "Then the heavy cruisers on the outer perimeter. We need to cause maximum confusion in minimum time." "Torpedoes are armed and ready, sir," reported the weapons officer. "Sir," Taylor said, "I'm picking up massive energy buildup from the alien ships. They're about to start the bombardment." Brooks watched as the first wave of plasma beams lanced down toward New Terra Prime. The planet's shields flared and began to fail. Cities started to burn. People were dying while he watched. "That's enough," he said quietly. "Take us in." The Blackstar accelerated toward the enemy fleet, still invisible to their sensors. The ship passed through the outer perimeter without being detected. Alien gunners continued their bombardment, unaware that death was approaching from behind. "Range." "Tow target?" Brooks asked. 500 kilometers and closing, sir." "Weapons, prepare to fire on my command." The Blackstar slipped through the enemy formation like a ghost. The quantum torpedoes were ready, their blue glow hidden behind closed launch tubes. In a few seconds, the aliens would learn that they had made a terrible mistake. 200 kilometers, sir. 100 kilometers. 50 kilometers. Brooks took a deep breath. Everything humanity had worked for came down to this moment. Fire. The USS Blackstar appeared from nowhere, materializing directly behind the Zephyrian flagship like a nightmare made real. For a split second, the alien bridge crew stared in shock at the human ship that had somehow appeared in their midst. "Fire!" "All tubes," Captain Brooks commanded. 6 quantum torpedoes launched from the Blackstar's hidden weapon base. The blue, ethereal weapons looked like ghosts as they flew toward their targets. They passed through the Zephyrian shields as if the energy barriers didn't exist, phasing into the crystalline hulls of the alien ships. The explosions came from within. Admiral Kexthul's flagship shuddered as the quantum torpedo detonated inside. Its engine room. Bulkheads cracked and systems failed as the alien crew scrambled to understand what was happening. "Impossible," Kexthul roared. "How did they penetrate our shields?" His second-in-command was staring at the damage reports in disbelief. "Sir, 5 more ships are reporting internal explosions. The heavy cruiser Zektar is breaking apart. The destroyer of Exmal is losing power. Sir, they're dying from the inside." Around them, the perfect Zephyrian formation dissolved into chaos. Ships that had been invulnerable moments before were now exploding in brilliant flashes of light. The alien crews had never seen weapons that could ignore their defenses. On New Terra Prime, Colonel Morrison felt the ground shake as the bombardment suddenly stopped. "What's happening up there?" he demanded. Lieutenant Carter's eyes were wide as she stared at her sensors. "Sir, the alien ships are exploding. Something is attacking them from inside their own formation." Captain Walsh ran to the nearest window and looked up at the sky. Through the smoke and fire, he could see bright flashes of light as alien vessels died. "How is that possible?" "I don't know, sir, but 6 of their ships are already gone. Bombardment has completely stopped." The Blackstar moved through the enemy fleet like a predator among sheep. Captain Brooks watched the tactical display as his ship phased in and out of normal space, appearing just long enough to launch more torpedoes before vanishing again. "Next target," he ordered. Lieutenant Taylor coordinated the firing solutions, while Chief Miller pushed the quantum drive beyond its safety limits. The ship flickered between dimensions, existing in the spaces where normal physics didn't apply. "Firing," called the weapons officer. 4 more quantum torpedoes launched toward a group of Zephyrian cruisers. The aliens were trying to track the Blackstar now, firing randomly into empty space, but their weapons couldn't hit a target that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The torpedoes phased through the alien hulls and detonated. 3 cruisers exploded immediately, their crystalline structure shattering like glass. The 4th ship lost power and began to drift, its crew dead or dying. Admiral Kexthil was losing his mind. Half his fleet was gone, destroyed by weapons he didn't understand fired from a ship he couldn't see. "All vessels, defensive formation. Find that human ship and destroy it." But the Zephyrian fleet was already broken. Their perfect coordination was gone, replaced by panic and confusion. Ships fired in all directions, some hitting each other in their desperation to find the invisible enemy. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting massive quantum distortions throughout the fleet. The human ship is using some kind of phase technology. It's appearing and disappearing faster than our sensors can track." The Blackstar materialized again, this time above the alien formation. Brooks had positioned his ship perfectly for another attack run, target their command vessels, cut off their communications. More torpedoes launched, seeking out the ships that were trying to coordinate the alien defense. The quantum weapons found their marks, exploding inside command centers and communication arrays. The Zephyrian fleet was becoming deaf and blind. On the planet below, the humans watched in amazement as their enemies tore themselves apart. The alien ships that had seemed so powerful were now fleeing in terror, abandoning their attack on New Terra Prime. "Sir," Carter reported, "I'm counting 47 enemy vessels destroyed. The rest are retreating to the outer system." Colonel Morrison couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Who's up there?" "What ship is that?" "I don't know, sir. It's not showing up on any of our sensors either, but it's definitely human." Captain Walsh was grinning like a madman. "I don't care who they are. They just saved every life on this planet." The Blackstar pursued the retreating aliens, appearing and disappearing, like a ghost ship from ancient legends. Each time it materialized, more quantum torpedoes launched, claiming more victims from the panicking enemy fleet. Admiral Kexthul's flagship was badly damaged, its engines barely functioning. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, retreat to the jump point." But the Blackstar was faster. It appeared directly in front of the fleeing alien ships, blocking their escape route. Captain Brooks opened a communication channel to the entire enemy fleet. "This is Captain Ryan Brooks of the USS Blackstar," he announced. "You came here to commit genocide. You wanted to wipe out every human in the galaxy. Well, here's a human. For you." The alien crews listened in terror as the human captain continued. You thought we were weak. You thought we were helpless. You were wrong. We don't just fight back. We fight back harder than you can imagine. Another volley of quantum torpedoes launched from the Blackstar. 6 more Zephyrian ships exploded. Their crews vaporized in an instant. The message was clear. There would be no mercy for those who came to destroy humanity. The surviving alien ships scattered in all directions, abandoning their formation and their mission. The mighty Zephyrian fleet that had come to destroy New Terra Prime was now running for its life from a single human vessel. Admiral Kexthul stared at the tactical display in horror. In less than 30 minutes, he had lost over half his fleet to a ship that shouldn't exist using weapons that should be impossible. The humans had technology that the Zephyrians couldn't match or understand. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 more human colonies. They want to join the resistance." The news was spreading across the galaxy at light speed. The invincible Zephyrian hegemony had been defeated by a ghost ship that struck from the shadows and vanished like smoke. The humans were no longer helpless victims. They were dangerous. The USS Blackstar materialized in full view of the remaining Zephyrian fleet, its stealth field deactivated. The sleek, predatory shape of the human destroyer appeared on screens across the galaxy. Captain Brooks prepared to broadcast humanity's message to the universe. "This is Captain Ryan Brooks of the USS Blackstar," he announced on all frequencies. "You came to our world to exterminate us. You thought humans were weak and helpless. You were wrong. We are not victims. We are not prey. We are the species that fights back when cornered, and we fight back harder than you can imagine." The message spread through galactic communication networks like wildfire. On hundreds of worlds, alien civilizations watched in shock as a single human ship faced down the remnants of the mighty Zephyrian fleet. The hegemony's reputation for invincibility was crumbling in real time. Admiral Kexthul stared at the human ship on his viewscreen. It was smaller than his flagship, but it had already destroyed 70% of his fleet. His crystalline armor was cracked, his weapon systems were failing, and his crew was terrified. "Human captain," he transmitted, "I propose a ceasefire. My fleet will withdraw from your system. There is no need for further bloodshed." Brooks' reply was cold and final. "You came here to commit genocide, Admiral. You wanted to wipe out every human man, woman, and child. There will be no ceasefire. There will be no mercy. There will only be justice." The Blackstar launched another volley of quantum torpedoes. 3 more Zephyrian ships exploded, their crews vaporized instantly. The surviving alien vessels tried to flee, but the human ship was faster and more maneuverable than anything in their fleet. On New Terra Prime, the human defenders emerged from their shelters to see the alien bombardment had completely stopped. The sky was filled with the burning wrecks of enemy ships, and more were exploding every few minutes. Colonel Morrison stood in the ruins of the capital city, watching the space battle through a pair of binoculars. "Lieutenant Carter, can you raise that ship?" "I'm trying, sir, but they're not responding to our hails. They're too busy hunting down the remaining aliens." Captain Walsh joined them on the rubble-strewn street. "Sir, the alien ground forces are surrendering. They're laying down their weapons and asking for mercy." "Give them the same mercy they plan to give our civilians," Morrison replied grimly. The tide of war had turned completely. What had begun as humanity's final defeat was becoming the Zephyrian Empire's greatest disaster. The aliens who had conquered hundreds of worlds were now running in terror from a single human ship. The Blackstar pursued the fleeing enemy vessels to the edge of the system. Each time the aliens tried to jump to hyperspace, the human ship appeared and destroyed their jump engines with precise torpedo strikes. Captain Brooks was not going to let a single enemy escape to warn the hegemony about humanity's new weapons. "Sir," Lieutenant Taylor reported. "We're down to the last 30 enemy ships. They're scattered across the outer system, trying to hide behind asteroids and debris. Hunt them down," Brooks ordered. "Every last one." The Blackstar moved through the asteroid belt like a shark through blood-filled water. Its quantum torpedoes found their targets no matter where they tried to hide. The alien's superior technology was useless against weapons that could phase through any defense. Admiral Keckstill's flagship was the last to die. The massive vessel limped through space on emergency power, its crew dead or dying from radiation. Poisoning. The Zephyrian commander sat alone on his bridge, watching as the human ship approached for the final kill. "You have won this battle, human," he transmitted weakly. "But the hegemony is vast. We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. You cannot defeat us all." "Watch us," Brooks replied. The final quantum torpedo phased through the flagship's hull and detonated in the engine room. The massive alien vessel broke apart in a brilliant explosion that could be seen from New Terra Prime. As the last enemy ship died, the Blackstar began broadcasting on every frequency in the galaxy. The message was simple but terrifying to those who had thought humans were helpless victims. "This is humanity. We are not extinct. We are not defeated. We are very, very angry. To every species that has allied with the Zephyrians, to every government that has supported their genocide, we have one message. We are coming for you. We remember every world you helped them destroy. We remember every human life you helped them take, and we will have our revenge." The broadcast ended, but its impact was immediate. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations that had supported the Zephyrian invasion began to panic. The humans were not only alive, but armed with technology. That made them more dangerous than anyone had imagined. On New Terra Prime, the human survivors began the long work of rebuilding their world. But they did it with new hope. The Blackstar had proven that humanity was not helpless. They could fight back, and they could win. Colonel Morrison received a coded message from Earth 3 days later. The transmission was brief, but electrifying. Blackstar mission successful. Quantum torpedo production beginning immediately. 12 new stealth destroyers under construction. A counterattack begins in 6 months. The Zephyrian Empire had thought they were exterminating a weak and helpless species. Instead, they had awakened something much more dangerous. Humanity had learned to fight in the shadows, to strike from nowhere, and to show no mercy to those who threatened innocent lives. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when humans stopped playing defense and started hunting their enemies. The Zephyrians had wanted to wipe out humanity. Now humanity was going to return the favor. The USS Blackstar disappeared into the darkness of space, invisible once again. But its message echoed across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer prey. They had become the predators. 3 months after the Battle of New Terra Prime, Admiral Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Blackstar, watching 12 identical stealth destroyers take formation around his flagship. The Ghost Fleet had grown from a single experimental vessel to a force that could reshape the galaxy. "All ships report ready for jump, sir," Lieutenant Taylor announced from her station. Brooks nodded, studying the tactical display that showed their destination, the Zephyrian home system. The time for hiding in shadows was over. Humanity was ready to take the fight directly to their enemies. "Signal the fleet," Brooks ordered. "Operation Nightfall begins now." The 13 ships vanished from normal space, their quantum drives bending reality around them. They moved through hyperspace like ghosts, invisible to every sensor network the Zephyrians had built. The enemy would never see them coming. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, Chief Engineer Dan Miller monitored the quantum torpedo production systems. Each ship now carried 50 of the phase weapons, enough to destroy entire fleets. The technology that had once been humanity's most guarded secret was now mass-produced in hidden factories across human space. "Sir," Miller reported, "all weapon systems are operating at peak efficiency. We've got enough firepower to level the planet." "We're not here to destroy worlds," Brooks replied. "We're here to liberate them." The Zephyrian Empire was collapsing from within. Their client species, inspired by humanity's victory at New Terra Prime, had begun rebelling across the galaxy. The hegemony's military was fighting on a dozen fronts, their forces stretched thin, trying to maintain control. Admiral Kextol was dead, executed by his own government as a scapegoat for the disaster that had befallen the invasion fleet. The Zephyrian High Command had tried to cover up the defeat, but the truth had spread too far to contain. Everyone in the galaxy now knew that the supposedly invincible hegemony could be beaten. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system. Brooks watched the sensor displays as they revealed hundreds of enemy ships patrolling the inner planets. The aliens had pulled their forces back to defend their core worlds, leaving their conquered territories lightly defended. "Sir," Taylor reported, "we're detecting massive fleet movements throughout the system. They know we're coming." "Good," Brooks said. "Let them see what humanity has become." The Blackstar and its sister ships moved deeper into the system, their stealth fields keeping them invisible. They passed through the outer patrol lines without being detected, slipping between the defensive formations like smoke through a net. The planet below, General Jake Morrison, coordinated with alien resistance movements that had risen up across former Zephyrian territories. The man who had once defended New Terra Prime's last bunker now led joint operations with dozens of liberated species. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving confirmations from 17 different worlds. The uprisings are spreading faster than we can track them." Morrison smiled grimly. "The Zephyrians spent 1,000 years making enemies. Now they're all fighting back at once." The human fleet reached the inner system and began its attack. Quantum torpedoes launched from empty space, phasing through the hulls of Zephyrian battleships and exploding inside their cores. The alien fleet, arranged in perfect defensive formations, began to die from within. "This is Admiral Ryan Brooks of the Human Liberation Fleet," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We are here to free every world the Zephyrians have enslaved. We are here to end 1,000 years of tyranny. We are here to show the galaxy what happens when humanity fights back." The message was picked up by news networks across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, alien populations watched as the human fleet systematically destroyed the Zephyrian Home Defense Force. The species that had once seemed helpless was now demonstrating technological superiority that defied belief. The Zephyrian High Command tried to coordinate a counterattack, but their communications networks were failing. Human cyber warfare specialists had infiltrated their computer systems, spreading viruses that turned their own technology against them. "Sir," a Zephyrian admiral reported to the High Command, "we've lost contact with the outer defense grid. Our ships are firing on each other. The humans have somehow taken control of our targeting systems." The High Command leader, an ancient Zephyrian named Vexstel, stared at the tactical display in horror. "How is this possible? We are the most advanced species in the galaxy." "Not anymore," his aide replied quietly. The human fleet moved through the Zephyrian formations like a scythe through wheat. Each stealth destroyer was a perfect killing machine, invisible until it struck and gone before the enemy could respond. The aliens' numerical advantage meant nothing against weapons they couldn't see or defend against. Within 6 hours, the Zephyrian home fleet was destroyed. The massive shipyards that had built the invasion force were burning wrecks floating in space. The planet's orbital defenses had been reduced to debris. Admiral Brooks opened a final communication to the Zephyrian High Command. "This is what you brought on yourselves. You wanted to exterminate humanity. Instead, You've awakened something that will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. Your empire is finished. Your species will survive, but only if you surrender unconditionally and release every world you've conquered. The surrender came within hours. The proud Zephyrian hegemony, rulers of hundreds of worlds, capitulated to a species they had tried to wipe out. The galaxy watched in amazement as the ancient empire collapsed under the weight of humanity's revenge. A year later, Admiral Brooks stood on the observation deck of New Terra Prime's rebuilt capital, watching construction crews work on the new spaceport. The planet had become the headquarters of the Human Liberation Alliance, a coalition of species freed from Zephyrian rule. "Sir?" Captain Walsh approached, now wearing the uniform of the Alliance Marines. "The last Zephyrian prison. Camp has been liberated. All their slave worlds are now free." Brooks nodded, but his expression remained serious. "The Zephyrians were just the beginning, Captain. There are other empires out there, other species that think they can prey on the weak. We need to make sure they understand the new reality." The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. What had seemed like certain victory for the Zephyrians had become their greatest defeat. The humans had proven that even in the darkest hour, they would find a way to fight back. The USS Blackstar had become legend, a ghost ship that appeared from nowhere to defend the innocent and punish the guilty. Children across the galaxy now grew up hearing stories of the vessel that had changed the course of history with a single battle. The universe was a different place now. The age of galactic empires built on conquest and slavery was ending. In its place rose something new. A galaxy where species worked together, where the strong protected the weak, and where humanity stood as the guardian of freedom. Never again would anyone assume victory over humanity was certain. Somewhere in the darkness, a Blackstar was always watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.